Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh, Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast. The impact it's having, the people it reaches. My objective when I started it was to simplify spirituality and really guide people on their journey. And with the message we receive on a weekly basis, people find it when they need it most. And I feel so blessed with it. So thank you if you're a regular listener. If you're new, welcome. And I'll always say, if you like this episode, please do like, comment, share. It really does help this podcast reaching more people. And just a quick intro for me. I'm an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, as well as a spiritual coach and mentor. And what I get to do is I guide people on their spiritual journey. I hold people's space, whether it's through Akashic Records, whether it's through the mentorship program that both me and Stacey channeled, through the Akashic Records. I love what I get to do. There's so much change happening right now, and I get to guide people to truly understand who you are. I always say, anyone that works with me is a soul contract. So if my voice resonates, let me know. I have a beautiful offer on the mentorship right now. I'm including Akashic Records in, so that means it's a 14-week program instead of a 12. And I love connecting people to the records. It's fully aligned with the mentorship, and I'm going to finish that promo at some point in April. So it's going to finish before the end of the month. And my prices are also increasing. So please do reach out, book a free discovery call, and maybe we went to work together. So this podcast won't be where it is today without my beautiful and amazing co-host, introducing the amazing, the stunning, the healer extraordinaire, and published author, Stacey Brown. Stacey, you know, got to do it. Boring otherwise.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to be back for another episode. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from all around the world. I am also an Akashic record reader, a spiritual coach and mentor. I'm also a hairdresser and a certified Reiki practitioner and a published author. My book, Journey to Soul Center, Discovering the Gift of Surrender, is available on Amazon and Audible. I just want to remind everybody of a special offer that I have right now. If you've had a reading or done mentorship with me and worked with me in some way before, and you refer someone to me, I will offer you a free 30-minute intuitive reading for that referral. I feel so blessed to get to do the work that we get to do, to be able to guide people on their journey to healing, to be able to help people through seasons of transition and change. I know for me right now, this has been a powerful season of change, and I've seen the power of the impact of the work that we do. And so if you feel called to work with me and Nimesh, please reach out. We both offer a free discovery call. You can meet with us together or separately, and we'd be honored to help you on your journey to healing. Nims, I'm really looking forward to getting into it today. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm actually, for once the sun is shining out in the UK. It's the warmest day of the year. I've had a busy weekend. I had my sister and my nephew over, and just dropped them off today. So yeah, it's been lots of good family time. It was my birthday over the weekend. So yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling I don't know, I'm liking this new energy, but it is it still feels intense. I don't know. It's just and I do feel like there's a lot happening, a lot of things shifting for the planet, and yeah, it's an interesting time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to today's topic. So we're going to be jumping into a topic of why being seen feels so uncomfortable. And I recorded a solo podcast, which I released last Monday. So this is sort of connected. So I feel like I'm quite, I feel like I'm an open book and I share whatever's in my heart on this podcast and other places. But I do receive some feedback from time to time that, it'd be good for me to share more of my background. And I feel like I've shared a lot about my spiritual awakening, but I didn't necessarily share about my journey to get there. And so I did more of that a week ago. So yeah, if you're interested, go and listen to last week's episode. If you're not, then I won't take offense. But a lot of that was around finding my voice and being seen. And I do feel like right now there's a pressure on us to be seen. There's a The last few years, I feel like was a lot of things coming up, but a lot of it is internal. And now I feel like we've been pushed to be seen at a different level. And I do feel like um, there's going to be different groups, right? I feel like some people are going to get consumed by the outside noise and whatever's happening on the planet and focus there, and others will focus on doing the internal work. And I do feel like that doing that internal work, part of it is showing up and being seen. So as we jump into this topic, and I'm sure Stacey has a view on it being seen, she's amazing at being vulnerable and keep showing up. And honestly, my deal with my guides is I'm just going to keep showing up, wherever I feel I need to go. And I've let go of needing to know whatever's coming next, because I don't know. I don't need to know, and I've got to trust. And I say I've got to trust. It is a choice, and I do choose to trust. But also, I don't feel like I have a choice. It's like, whatever's coming is coming. How much visibility do we really have? But I do know part of that is I need to keep showing up and be seen. It's a feeling. If people are meant to work with me, unless I'm being seen, how are they going to find me? But ultimately, if you listen to this, my question to you is, how do you feel about being seen? Because sometimes we have we're honest with ourselves and we're like, you know what? I'm uncomfortable being seen. And I guess if you're uncomfortable being seen, are you willing to get out your comfort zone and be seen? And if you're telling yourself that you're comfortable being seen, then if you're really honest with yourself, if you had any little fear about being seen for who you really are, because bear in mind, we, social media and other places, we're not always our authentic self, right? And there's no judgment here. There's no right or wrong. But sometimes we lie to ourselves. So as we start this episode and we dive in, and I'm going to jump to Stacey in a sec, I want to ask you, how do you feel about being seen? And if you had a fear about being seen, what would that fear be? And being seen, is it safe for you? Or do you feel safer being hidden? It's an interesting topic, right? And like I said, I do feel like we're being pushed. So are you going to be pushed, or are you going to go in with both feet? So Stace, I love how vulnerable you are and how, you always show up in these sort of conversations. So how do you feel about being seen? And if you had a fear about being seen, what would that fear be?
So I feel very uncomfortable being seen. And I don't know if people would gather that from the way that I approach things, but if you were to see me out in my day-to-day life, like in my day-to-day environment, I'm actually very private, keep to myself. My circle's really small, and I like it that way. And when I'm on this podcast with you, I don't think about a million people listening or the fact that we're reaching people globally. I don't think about that. I sit and I have a conversation with my friend. And I think about maybe one person listening. And I envision that one person kind of taking in what we're talking about. But if I thought about it, it would freak me out, Nims, because the idea of being seen is so scary, right? The idea that you're out there for the world to see and exposed can be a very scary feeling. And I guess I don't really think about that when I'm doing what I'm doing. I'll tell you where it's really getting to me right now. Okay, this whole being seen thing is I feel like I need to put myself out there in a different way to reach more people and lean into social media more. And I feel like there is a barrier up against me at the idea of being seen. So this topic is very appropriately timed.
And it's always right, as always. And by the way, I can confirm I've seen Stacey before, public appearances or whatever, and and she shows up, but it is there's a process that she goes through before, and there's real fear, and if I was to be if I'm honest, I would say my corporate training, kind of all the presentations I had to do there, and kind of how I had to show up there, and I've been through that journey of being uncomfortable. And this podcast has been amazing. It's a great way of training for me to be comfortable in speaking. And, I'm definitely comfortable speaking. Being seen in public, I know I've got to do more of, and there's always a bit of nerves, and I feel like the nerves are healthy, right? But again, my deal is I'm just going to keep showing up. So if I'm nervous, I push through people through mentorship to show up, and I'm authentic in what I do, so I can't push people to be seen with what I do on a day-to-day basis and not do it myself. It's like that part of me, that determination, when the episode I recorded last time was really the journey, what I experienced as a child, being bullied, not having a voice. I was a refugee and didn't know the language. Kind of working through all of that is really finding my voice is what makes me comfortable speaking. Now, here's the other question I'd ask you is the difference between being seen and being heard. I'm comfortably being heard. Again, if I was honest, I don't necessarily like listening to my voice, but I do know and understand the power of words and the intention and the tone. I 100% will show up and be seen. But that's a bit more difficult. Difficult is all relative, but it's much more out of my comfort zone. And but it's what's courage is having fear and doing anyway. But it kind of leads on to my next question, really, and I'm going to ask it to Stacey too. But if you're listening, really your childhood patterns, what you've been through, how you were as a child, about being seen, about being heard, were you seen, were you heard, is really has an impact on you as an adult. The child is father to the man, and what you are as an adult, how you feel about being heard, how you feel about being seen, does come from as part of your childhood, right? There is definitely a connection. Again, so Stacey, let me ask you two questions really. One is, the fear you talk about, is it both being heard and being seen? Or is it one more or the other? And if I ask you about your childhood and how that connects to how you feel about being seen?
Wow, Nims. You really are going into it.
I just, honestly, whatever comes into whatever channel the message comes through. So you can blame my guides for sure. But yeah. So yeah, I guess the first question is, is it sneak?
This is reminding me of when we first met, and you would ask me challenging questions.
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was it was on Clubhouse. So that was audio only. So it wasn't even being seen. It was being heard. But but what do you feel? Is it more? Are you comfortable being seen, being heard, or are you uncomfortable being both? I'm just curious.
I'm equally uncomfortable with both. As far as my voice, I was teased a lot as a kid about my voice, which is ironic because now I use my voice in so many ways to help people, right? But I was teased a lot because I had a high-pitched voice. And I've always been self-conscious of being heard because of it. So it's funny now that I'm on a podcast and I'm using my voice all the time, but I still can't listen to myself. It's really, really challenging for me to listen to a recording of myself because I'm still self conscious. Um, and yeah, being seen is hard too. You know, when you put yourself out there for the world to see, hear, judge, it's a very scary place to be. You feel so exposed. And I think a lot of us, without even realizing we're doing it, I think we put on like a coat of armor every day,
Yeah.
you know, and we don't realize that that's what we're doing, but we do it. And then when it comes down to it and we're being seen, there's a feeling of that coat of armor falling away and you feeling exposed and vulnerable. And I mean, it's interesting because I don't feel that I was ever vulnerable like this as a child. Like my upbringing made it really hard for me. Like I felt like I had to play a role or wear a mask every day, like in order to get through. And I don't, for me, the vulnerability and the kind of exposing myself and being so open all came from the space of what happened with my son. It like broke me wide open. And, you know, people have asked me why or how that correlates. When everything happened with him, mental health and substance abuse is so stigmatized, right? Even now, there's this stigma that when it comes to that topic, those topics. And we were struggling so publicly with our son that I felt like I couldn't hide from the truth. And I felt exposed whether I wanted to be or not. And I realized from that space that I felt somewhat liberated because I was able to just say, this is me and this is who I am and this is who my family is and this is what we're going through. And like, you can either accept us or not, right? There was this like, I almost felt like I had no choice in the exposure at that point because our story was out there, whether I wanted it to be or not. And so I chose to use my voice to kind of advocate for my son at the time. And when that happened, it broke me wide open. And I've been this way ever since. And sometimes I wish I wasn't. You know, sometimes I wish that I wasn't so open and so vulnerable, but I don't know how we're able to help others if we're not more open about who we are and what our journey is. You know, and so
Yeah.
ultimately, that's what I want.
But isn't it interesting, right? It's that this is really my message to everyone that's listening, is that I think we're getting to a point where maybe we don't even have a choice about being seen and being heard. And you know, Stacey just talked about her experience and what she went through with her son, which forced her to be to show up and be vulnerable, right? It triggered something in her, and you know, through my journey of through childhood and not having a voice, not having a place, not wanting to belong. You know, and then there has to be a reason why I spent, you know, nearly 30 years in corporate. And that taught me a lot of that taught me a lot about being seen, you know. So your life journey up to this point gives you so many clues. And you know, it's interesting, right? And you know, Stace talked about at the beginning about when you start speaking your truth, and the more you do it, sometimes it does give you discomfort in your body. It does give you an uncomfortable feeling. But your body also gives you clues when you're not being authentic, when you're kidding yourself. And I really feel like this is a period where we will be called out by the universe in whatever way. And so again, if you've been struggling to be seen, I would encourage you to take little steps. And because you've got to meet the universe halfway. So and the thing, okay, Stace, coming with another question. Because you've got to also explore the link to being seen and the fear around it. Where does it come from? And does it come from a fear of judgment or rejection? Do you worry that if you use your voice, people won't listen, people won't believe, people will judge you, people will reject you? I know there's times on this podcast when we're talking, and certainly there's times when I recorded that solo episode about my story, and I did debate, by the way, in terms of, should it be an interview style question, a conversation, or should I just speak? And I wanted it from the heart, and Stacey's great at asking questions, but I don't know, there's part of me just wanted to jump on camera and speak, and I felt like that was the best way for me to be seen, but it wasn't comfortable. I resisted. I knew I wanted to do it, and in the end, I chose to record at 2 a.m. on the Sunday night, so Monday morning, and I released it on Monday. So I was busy. There was a lot going on, but there was some procrastination there for sure, right? And generally, I'm comfortable speaking. So it doesn't matter how much training you have and how much. Sometimes you're still uncomfortable, right? So exploring going deeper on your fear of being seen and understanding, is it a fear of judgment? Is it a fear of rejection? And, the difference between being visible and being truly seen, there's such a deep, and asking yourself some open questions really, really does help. And I would encourage you to do that. And I would start with, I've already asked a few here, but I would also ask, is it fear of judgment or rejection? Are you worried that if you show up, people are going to judge you, people are going to reject you? Where does that feeling live in your body? Really understanding where the fear of being seen is coming from is part of the journey. I feel being uncomfortable and doing it anyway is really the next part. So again, Stace, is if you were to tap into that fear of being seen, and I love the idea, and I do the same, focus on the one person. If I really thought about the number of people that listen to this podcast, yeah, I think it'd make me more nervous, start, and in full disclosure, we're not at millions yet, Stace. We'll get there, but we're not at millions yet. But we're definitely, at a high number. But so let me ask you that question. Round about being seen, is it a fear of judgment? Is it a fear of rejection? What do you feel it is more of?
I don't worry about rejection, because I feel like the people that are meant to be in my life will be in my life and accept me. I think it's more a fear of appearing weak, which is interesting because it actually takes a lot of strength to be vulnerable. It takes a lot of courage to be vulnerable. But there is part of me that is concerned that I'll be perceived as weak. I have been through so much in my life. I mean, I chose to write a book because I had all these life experiences that I felt might benefit somebody on their own journey, right? And just so many things, so many seasons I've experienced. I've experienced a lot of beautiful things, but I've also experienced a lot of heartbreak and loss. And I feel like because of that, I am very well equipped to help people. But I worry sometimes when I open up so much that people will think that I'm not strong. There is something in me that worries that it comes across as weakness, which is, like I said, is crazy because as I'm talking it out, I know that it takes a tremendous amount of strength to be vulnerable, right? So why is it that I would have this kind of conundrum right now? Like, why am I thinking this is something like a weakness?
Because there's a human in you too, right? So there's a human in, and it's just you kind of made me think about, kind of, and maybe this will help somebody listening. Focusing on the one person definitely helps me rather than the many people that listen to each episode. But the other thing that I struggled with is who am I to tell you what to do? What credentials do I have to channel information that is needed for the collective? And consider if those that have heard me talk about mentor, my friend before, kind of her approach actually really helped me because she always used to say, you know what, I know nothing, and that helped me to process the fact that the information that comes through isn't mine. The information that comes through, because if I try to hold on to it, if I was trying to say, well, it's all mine, why are people repeating what I say, or if I'm quoting somebody, then it's not mine and all this. It's just I let go of all of that because none of it's mine. If I share some information humanly, maybe I've heard it from somebody else, or if I channel it, it's not mine anyway. It's coming from a different source. So letting go of the human that speaks has helped me. And maybe that's make it sound easy. I get that. But the other thing that helped me is actually just being uncomfortable and accepting it. I remember whenever I had to do a corporate presentation in front of whatever number, whether it's 5 people or 10,000 people, it was I was nervous, right? And in the corporate space, I wouldn't practice that much, but I'd have lots of bullets, I'd have slide decks, and in this space, we talk about the topic before, and we have some conversations and all that. There's a little bit of conversation, but there isn't a lot of. There's no script. There's no bullets. There's no, And actually, sometimes we do. We do prepare a few bullets, but generally, it's just whatever comes through comes through. And it's a different sort of uncomfortable. But again, I don't remember the part of me that used to begin a podcast really nervously. There's, like I said, there's certain episodes like the one I was sharing my story. There's a few nerves. But again, repetition is the mother of skills. So if you're procrastinating or something, I remember when I was starting the podcast, I wanted the perfect mic, the perfect software, the perfect this. In the end, I just opened my MacBook and put my AirPods in and spoke. So I would, the way that you overcome this fear of being seen and being heard is embracing the fear in some small way. And, but there is a cycle to this, right? And I'm sure Stacey can share more on this, but when you do share on like a podcast or there's some success in it and you're visible, sometimes it activates old wounds, right? It's sometimes there's triggers there and fears, and this for both me and Stacey, this podcast and talking being so openly talking to a friend actually it's been our healing ground too. And that's the thing. It's like you start speaking, you start being seen. It's part of your healing. It's part of your expansion. It really isn't about the other person and hearing. It's about you sharing your truth. Make it all about you. And if you're fearful of being misunderstood or not accepted or not heard, that's not on you. Stace talked about the one person. So, if you're speaking your truth and being seen, focus on the one person. And it's interesting, Stacey, you made me smile when you said when you chose to write the book. I remember when you decided to write that book. I don't know if it was a choice. Well, I certainly not sure I had a choice, but it was like there was something that came over you. You were here for a month, but in the last week you came home from being out, and like you said, I need to write this book. I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And you were like, no, you don't understand. I need to write this book before I go. And I'm like, you're here for a week. What are you talking about? And in that moment, it's like when I left corporate, I don't think it was a choice. I'm not sure writing that book was a choice. So, and I'm just curious, when I've talked about so much in this bit, but your healing journey, even with writing the book and this podcast, how is that, how does that help you heal? How has that brought up old wounds and, kind of, how has it been part of your healing journey and your growth and showing up in the way that you do? And was the book a choice?
I don't think the book was a choice. I felt deeply called to that process. And I remember feeling so compelled that it didn't feel like I had a choice. And I remember having the moment when I hit send on the final manuscript. I remember having the moment of realizing, oh my gosh, people are actually going to read this. Like because when I was writing it, I was just thinking about one person. I wasn't thinking about all the people who would know so much about my inner journey and what I had been through. And that just felt a bit daunting. But here's the beautiful thing that I think we haven't really touched on that I think is so important. You have moments where you see the results of your experience with someone, where you see the moment that they've connected with your vulnerability. And man, that makes it all worth it. When that one person reaches out and says, I was listening to you on this episode and what you said resonated with me. I felt like you were talking directly to me. When we hear those kinds of messages and when I see those kinds of things happen with my book, with the podcast, with any kind of exposure that I'm putting out there of my vulnerability for the world, it's so beautiful to see when there's a connection, a really true, authentic connection happening between you and another individual because you were vulnerable. And I mean, that to me makes it all worth it. I've received so many messages from, moms who have struggled with their kids and addiction and mental health issues. I feel like I've really seen what it is to connect through vulnerability. And those moments and that exposure makes me want to keep going. Because if I can reach one more person with my voice, it's worth it. It's worth it for one person to say, I don't feel alone in this. And so I just keep thinking about that one person. And I would encourage our listeners to do the same because, yes, we're talking about the podcast, but we're talking about being seen and heard in your life, right? And showing up as the most authentic version of yourself. And that's not always easy. But what happens when you have that one person who truly connects with you because you were open with your journey? It's so powerful.
I love that, and I couldn't agree more. It's that that's why I keep showing up. That's why I keep doing this podcast. I really want to make sure I continue to release 2 episodes a week. If I miss, if I'm a day late or whatever, or sometimes on the Thursday I release it on a Friday, etc. I just so my thing is the same as Stacey. It's that what if I'll always say my purpose is anyone I connect with, leave them better than I found them. And if one person listens to the podcast and when we make a difference to their life, then I've achieved my purpose for the day. And Stacey just inspired me, so I thought I'd just read actually a DM I received today, and it's about the podcast episode I released, and literally I received it a couple hours ago, so I thought perfect to share. And I'll just share one paragraph, it's much longer, but congratulations on creating such a sincere, heartfelt, deep and honest podcast for your birthday. I truly believe that your story will be felt and well received by your listeners, new and old, and it will help them to connect with you and themselves at a deeper level. And it's like, I made an impact to one person. I know it's just like, and it lifts me up in a way that, it's so beautiful. And it's just, when I think back to and I connect to my inner child and how growing up, I didn't have a voice. I didn't speak. I was very quiet and just, and now I wouldn't say I talk a lot, but I only talk when I've got something to say. And, but I have a voice and I'm proud that I have a voice. But I know my healing journey connected me to realizing I have a powerful voice and I should share it. But then my continued healing came by me using my voice. So, Stacey, I'd love for you again. I'd go back to the question I asked you. Just how has using your voice helped you heal? What has it meant to you?
Well, it's helped me so much because through using my voice, I've been able to connect with other people and know that what I'm sharing is benefiting somebody in some kind of way. I think that it's really, really hard to go through painful life experiences. It's really hard. And yet, when we feel like what we're going through can help other people, it somehow makes the pain lessen a little bit. And for me, I went through so much pain. There was so much pain, specifically in the last, few years with my son. There was just so much pain, so much heartache, so much that I had to face. And I don't know how I would have the healthy outlook that I do about all of it had it not had a ripple effect in helping other people. It felt like too big of a story and a journey for me to go through without it helping other people. And so I think that's the beauty of being open, is that when you're open and you're vulnerable, you have the potential to help other people who might be in a similar situation and allow them to receive some wisdom that they might not otherwise receive. We're all just walking each other home. It's one of my favorite quotes. And it's true. Like we're meant to help each other. And I believe through the power of vulnerability, we can really do that. We really can make an impact.
You know what, Stace? I wouldn't have, we were on Clubhouse, and I've shared this story before, but I wouldn't have opened up our connection if you weren't vulnerable. Is when you were super vulnerable that I was like, oh, I need to talk to this person. She's being so authentic. I could feel your energy. And that's the thing. People feel your vibration. It isn't actually, the words are important, but your intention. And, the other important thing I'd say is actually never make it about your story. It's about actually how your story has helped you to grow. And, again, Stacey, you're helping you write your book and all that. It was never about your story. It was always about what lessons you learned and how much you grew from it. And that's what I feel like part of this journey is losing yourself, letting go of your expectations. And I make it sound easy, but it's like, there is a difference between wanting to be seen and wanting to stay safe. I know I talked to some clients about this, being seen actually feels unsafe because not being seen. You're in your little bubble. You're in your little cocoon, and you can keep kidding yourself and day to day, but you know that your world's going to change when you step out and you be seen. And again, own that. If you're uncomfortable being seen because you want to stay in your little bubble, you don't want to, because you're comfortable, because you know that once you're being seen, you're out of your comfort zone. And one of my favorite phrases to go with this is, what other people think of you is none of your business. You can't control. I can't control what people think of me. I can't control if people resonate with what I say. Same, you can't control what people think of you. Sometimes we get so focused on what someone else is thinking about us because something we said, but they don't even remember the conversation. And this is the thing. Maybe you've got to stop over explaining and being vulnerable and just focus on the one person and make it not about your story, but about how it helped you grow. And that's so important. It's not about your story. Your story doesn't interest me. It's actually how you use your story to grow. And if you focus on there, I feel like you can, the way that Stacey talked about it in, inspiring somebody to change or shift, that's where I feel it comes from. So Stacey, as we start closing out this episode, I just want to ask you if you have any final thoughts. And I know I've asked a few questions along in this episode, but if you have any general prompts you want to share with our listeners.
So I think it's really important to ask yourself if you if you are vulnerable, if you're capable of being vulnerable. What does that look like? What does that feel like? And if you were to be open about your story, who could you help? I think that's a powerful question to ask. Because if you're open with your story, you can have an impact on other people. When you're open about your journey and you're vulnerable, it can be a connection point to other people. So take some time, write down, when was the last time you were vulnerable? What happened? What's holding you back? I encourage you to explore this and see what lies underneath the surface.
Stacey, I don't know if you can hear us, but I think you got frozen there. But yeah, I couldn't agree with them more, right? Make it about, being seen isn't about being understood by everybody. It's about no longer hiding from yourself. So don't make it about you sharing your wisdom. You're sharing actually how much you've grown. And make it all about you. Because if you make it about everybody else and, you wrap yourself around what people are going to think, you're going to get lost in all of that. So this really is a time to push yourself, to get out your comfort zone, one little step at a time. And by the way, what me and Stacey do is this is exactly one of the things we actually help you do, is to shine your light unconditionally, unashamedly. So if we can help you, if our voice resonates, book a free discovery call with both of us, one of us. Sign up for mentorship. It really is life-changing. I love mentoring people and guiding people on that way. So reach out. We have other amazing things. Stacey has a Facebook group, which is a really safe community for women. I have a membership, which is really beautiful and, it's a safe place to be. We have a monthly full moon webinar. There's so much going on. But this is a time to be there for you. This is a time to get it uncomfortable. This is a time to feel the nudges that the universe has given you. And if you need somebody to hold your line or hold your hand along the way, reach out. We're both sending you so, so much love and light. We love being in this space. We love you guys so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And bye for now.